Nothing works, and I have to get to this one Native American ruin on top of a hill, but it's nighttime, so I have to get there by using the illuminations of lightning flashes. So I wait for lightning to strike, and I use those flashes to illuminate the hilltop, which is about a mile away. And so lightning flashes, and it goes away, and I walk around bushes, through mesquite, and then around cacti, and I do this for about an hour. It was slow going, but in lightning flashes and the boom of the thunder and the rain coming down, I hike to this Native American ruin at night. By the time I get there, I'm exhausted, and I collapse behind the wall, and I reset up my tent. Everything's soaking wet, and I just kind of pass out. I'm just exhausted. Well, I wake up sometime later to something punching me in the face.
Oh.
And so even though it was nighttime, there was still a little bit of ambient light from the lights of Phoenix, which is a massive city. I think it's about 4 million people live there now. And I could see when I turned to my left after being hit in the face, I can see the imprint of 5 fingers of someone's hand through the nylon of my tent backing away.
What?
And
oh my goodness.
I know, and just remember this, I'm alone in the Arizona desert in a Native American ruin right after a thunderstorm. Nobody else in their right mind would be out there. And something just punched me in the face through the tent. And so I took my revolver, I cocked it, and I fired a shot where the hand was, and I unzipped the tent, and I got out, and there's nothing there. But when I fired the gun, the revolver was so close to the tent, it caught the tent on fire. And so I'm standing outside, noticing that there's no one there. And I'm in the middle of this ruin, and the only light that is illuminating anything is the little low-lit flames of my tent burning to the ground. And there's only one intact room left in this Native American ruin. And I do a complete 360, and then as I face this one intact room, the flames are gone, it's completely dark, and from inside that room, you hear this.
What?
And I didn't go to sleep again that
I
night.
got chills. Chills. Oh my gosh. That's flipping crazy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Before that, I didn't believe in anything. I didn't even believe in believing with paranormal or anything religiously or paranormal wise. But that night literally shook my world and made me realize there's a whole lot more to this than I ever thought. And yeah, I just sat there and I just watched that room until sunrise, and nothing ever came out of it.
That's crazy.
So
yeah.
That's my most intense ghost story.
That's intense, all right.
I don't know.
Oh, man.
I think it was one of your videos where you all had the equipment that kind of makes like a stick figure.
Yes, that's an SLS camera.
Yeah, and like I'm not sure where you were. It was a while ago I watched it, but then there was like someone that walked across the stick, and you could see the stick figure. It's not a stick figure, obviously, but it just walked across like a stage. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I remember that. Yeah, that was inside the old Jerome High School.
Oh, it was crazy.
Really?
Yeah, the high school was built, I think, in 1923, and it hasn't been a high school since 1971 or 72. And that auditorium it's pretty much abandoned. It's a derelict building. I was the only one in that auditorium.
Wow.
But you do see the stick figure, and then you see someone walking across it.
Yep. It was crazy.
And it was like a blue color, like a blue or a gray color of a human silhouette walking across it.
Yep. Absolutely crazy. So if
go ahead.
I was going to say those videos are all under your YouTube, which is the Arizona Treasure Hunter, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. And that is all linked above in the title information of the description of the show. If you want to click on it, you can definitely go over and give him a follow or subscribe or whatever term is used for YouTube. And sorry, Gypsy, I cut you off.
Crazy. No, I was just going to say that for me, my first experience was one of those where you see the stick figures was at Haunted Hill House. And we were upstairs, and Sonny, the owner of the property, he had me holding it, and I was aiming it where these stick figures appeared, and there was one stick figure that we started getting to interact with us. I mean, I say stick figure, you know what I mean?
Yeah, a spirit.
And we actually asked them to wave at us, and they did. That's crazy. It's just crazy. Anyway, back to Cody.
So you do obviously metal detecting, and like you said, you do some paranormal stuff. Is there any other types of treasure hunting you do?
I do what I like to call expeditionary treasure hunting. So I'll go out into the field for 3 days to 10 days, and I'll be literally out exploring, treasure hunting, and metal detecting on private property with permission of the landowners. Usually it's ranchers because they own vast swaths of land. Mm-hmm. And I'll be in canyons, I'll be on mesas, and going after Spanish treasure, bandit loot, and if the terrain is appropriate for it, I'll do river treasure hunting, being like free diving, snorkeling, that kind of stuff too.
That's awesome. Do you have you brought your detector to do any of that stuff as well?
Oh yes, I break down my metal detector into a 3-day pack that I have, and I'll bring usually about 5 days worth of food. But I have solar panels on the back of my pack, which is charging a battery pack. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the day, metal detecting, I just plug in the MyLab to the battery pack, and it charges through the night, so I could start all over the next day. So I can be kind of self-sufficient.
Nice. That works.
Yeah.
That is very cool. And I know I've seen you've gotten out quite a bit. Do you have a favorite find that you found this year so far?
A favorite find? Well, I would have to say the amount of old women's wedding bands I've been finding. So
really?
Where I've been doing a lot of treasure hunting, metal detecting, and redlick hunting is within the Verde Valley, next to where I live. And that has Jerome's history, this old mining town called Clemenceau, which no longer exists. Clemenceau is no longer in existence. And there was an old mining town which was called McGuireville, which no longer exists. There is a new McGuireville, but it's not the old McGuireville. And those old towns, I'm old women's wedding bands. No stones are still in them, and they're silver, but they're kind of like this gray color when I pull them up. And it's just fascinating, and they're so small. The wedding bands are so small.
Do you have any theory on why you're finding so many in this location?
I'm finding a lot of things. It's my opinion that a lot of these homes have burnt down. Because inside of them, I'm finding things like clay marbles, I'm finding belt buckles, even some horse tack by what would be the front door. And there was an axe head I found at the front of the fireplace. And right next to it, I did find a wedding band next to the fireplace. So down, because if people just left, I don't think they would have left their wedding ring.
Yeah, valuables.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that they'd do that. But I do know, when I was a kid in Texas, going back into the early 1800s, maybe the 1870s, if a family died of cholera or some like contagious disease, and they were still in the house. Everyone passed away. Neighbors would burn the house down to keep the disease from spreading.
To keep it, yeah. Makes sense. That's crazy. Yeah, it makes you wonder, I mean, I'm sure there's so many stories behind those rings and of course, the items we find. And sometimes we wish they could talk, but it's interesting to know that type of history, too. And probably with some research, you might even find out that happened there, too. Things like that. Because, like you said, it'd be doubtful that they would leave something like that behind. So, what's the story? Did the house burn accidentally? Was it purpose? Or what did go on? Interesting.
It's true. And it was a while ago, I actually found, it was in a creek. I found what looked like to be a gold nugget, but like a low quality. And I was just like looking at it under the microscope, like under my little loophole magnifier. And it looked like little pieces of bone inside of the nugget. And about a week later, I went back to the same spot about 3 feet down in another crevice, and I found a cremation tag.
Oh.
Really?
So what I found was the gold crown of someone's tooth with a little piece of tooth still inside of it, but with a cremation tag right next to it.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Well,
there's those kinds of finds too. I'm pretty sure y'all have found something to do with human remains in the past.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, several.
Have you ever had anything happen, like when you find those things and then you bring them home? Have you ever had anything spooky happen in your house?
I did have some spooky stuff happen in my house when I lived in Round Rock, but I don't think it was related to, it could have been related to something I brought into the house. Very, very possible. But at the time, I was out probably metal detecting every day or every other day, bringing different stuff in. So I have tried to get in the habit of every now and then saging my stuff, because after that experience with paranormal in the house and what was going on, finally we saged the house and didn't have any more issues of what was going on. So, I'd never really thought about it, but it could have been something to do with one of the objects I brought into the house. I know one object that I did bring into the house probably around that time. Never thought about it, but it was from a casket. And when I looked it up, it's like a certain piece that sometimes they would have made back in the 1800s, and it would be on the would be on the casket until it was time to bury them, and then they would take it home as like a momentum. They'd take it off the casket. And this one was obviously a little girl, because of what it says on there. And some people will find these where they will even be made of silver. This one is definitely not silver, but it's got, I don't know what, it's very lightweight, but it's got it cleaned up really nice. I'm not really sure what it's made out of, honestly. I'll have to send y'all a photo and see what you think. But it's something like in memory of, and it's our little girl or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it says. But
that's pretty.
Anyway, yeah, I never thought about that, but that could very well be some of that stuff that went on. I don't know.
And
about it.
We've had creepy stuff here all the time. I don't know if it's anything in regards to things brought in. We're on a very old property here in Maine and have a cemetery that's right next to the house. So yeah, just try to do the best.
Cool.
Yeah, clean up the cemetery, and some bodies have been moved, not all. So they did dig up the cemetery to move some of the the remains, and some were left there. I'm not sure why they would